of our calling. It is a lovely story.
The first time I heard Dan Allender speak, I was 25 years old and wondering how I'd come to be sitting in the middle of a crowd of students at a relatively unknown graduate school within a business park in the suburbs of Seattle. It was 2004, and I had traveled 3,000 miles in my Malibu blue Ford Focus, leaving behind a secure life in Northern Virginia, outfitted with friends, family, and a job at IBM. Suddenly, I woke from my transitional haze to see a strange man I had never heard of taking his place at the front of the classroom in the bowels of an office building akin to the ones inhabited by dentists. I had been hoodwinked by God and my best friend, Abby Wonghefter, into quitting my job and moving across the country to study psychology. It was utter madness, and in the moments before Dan spoke, I was planning what I would say to my former boss when I begged for my job back. And then this odd man with scraggly hair and a mustache standing before us began to speak. At first, I was skeptical, as had been my general disposition up to that point. But as I listened, I heard him weave psychology, story, and the gospel in a way that captured my attention and resonated with my desire for more of God, more of Jesus. It felt authentic, provocative, and heartbreaking. I was mesmerized and undone all at the same time. In a moment, I realized this was why I had come to the opposite edge of the country. I was here to understand more of what this strange man was telling me and to join something of the Spirit of God who was alive and healing in this puzzling place called the Mars Hill Graduate School. 15 years have passed since I became Dan's student, and during that time, Mars Hill became the Seattle School of Theology and Psychology, which in turn birthed the Allender Center, co-founded in 2010 by Dan and me and Dan's wife, Becky. Now Dan, at 68, is nearing the end of his career, and I, at 40, have become his boss. My role is to create infrastructure for the Allender Center, develop talent, raise funds, facilitate small groups, teach and handle the crisis and complexities inherent in the daily operation of any organization. Dan is the heart and soul of what we do, training counseling professionals to work in the area of trauma and abuse, the focus of Dan's calling and career for more than 3 decades. Dan is amazing, and I love working with him. But our moments of tension and conflict have been profound. Our stories, just as in every friendship, work relationship, and marriage, collide. I'm a good woman. He is a good man. But my history involves succeeding through tireless, goal-oriented labor, while he has thrived on intuition, adrenaline, and risk-taking. As an extroverted, bold, and bossy kid, I was often in situations where I was out in front of my skis socially. My family was not particularly religious in my early years. One summer, we went to visit some dear family friends who were devout Episcopalians. The father was an intimidating figure with prematurely gray hair and a scowl that rarely left his face. I already had the sense that he thought poorly of our family. We were too wild and undisciplined, and my parents weren't raising us in a way that garnered his approval. Even at that young age, I could sense this, so when we attended their church on Sunday morning, I quickly attempted to ascertain how to behave properly in this strange setting. As their children sailed through the liturgy with ease, I felt the knot in my stomach tighten as I tried to mimic their every move. I pretended to recite the incantations, even though the words were difficult to read and I couldn't understand when to sit, stand, or kneel. As I tried to play the part I felt was expected of me, my feelings of exposure and shame intensified. My face, flushed with embarrassment, began to burn, and I felt hot and breathless, as though I were trying to keep up with